Hi folks, welcome back. This is Tim Kovar again, doing tutorials on how to use InDesign to combine text and image, and ultimately we're going to be making multi-page layouts to combine to create photo books. At the moment we're starting out fairly simple, and we're just making single A4 documents. We've done letterhead number 1, which just had a regular text box in it, and we styled that text a little bit. Here is our letterhead design number 2, which is a little more complicated. And with that, we're just going to see how to place an image on the page and talk a little bit about this thing called grid design, which is what we're going to use over and over and over again. And you'll want to look at examples that you'll see every day. Find out where they line up elements, how they balance the elements on a page, and look at how that might be assembled in InDesign using picture boxes and text boxes. Okay. All right. So here's my second design for letterhead for a photographer. A little bit busy, perhaps you might say, but I kind of like the idea of having different shape pictures stuck on the page because it just makes a little bit of dynamic action. But if I turn on the normal view here, which comes in our little menu down there, and you can use the W key to swap back and forth between normal view and the preview. You can see that I've drawn these light blue lines just by grabbing in the menu bar and dragging them down into place, and using those to make sure that the pieces that I want to line up do line up. Sorry. Okay. So the bottom edge of those pictures lines up, the bottom edge of that type. The inside edge of this picture, along with this rule, line up with that picture down there. And notice that even though these three different text boxes hold different bits of information, they all line up. The inside edge, the left justified edge of that type, all lines up together. And so whether you like that design or not, you can say that, oh yeah, there's a structure there that makes a balanced arrangement. Whereas if I'd had this one centered over here somewhere, you'd say that just looks out of place. All right. So graphic designers spend years trying to develop stable, structured designs that aren't too static, that have a little bit of movement and dynamism to them, but still have structure to convey the information. And your job as a designer is to come up with ways that make interesting layouts and yet still present the information that the audience can view clearly. Okay, so how to place images, what the heck is grid design? You can see an example here. So what I've got is another version of that, and you can see that the text boxes that we've drawn using the type tool, I've put those into place. And then where I wanted to put a picture box, we use the rectangular frame tool to put those in. Now they have that little X drawn through it, and that tells us that it's designed for an image. All right. Now in practice, you can put pictures into text boxes and you can put text into picture boxes. So it's not that critical, but it's nice to plan ahead, and as you draw those elements, be thinking about where the different pieces are going to go. Okay. So you can see I've left this little hole right here where I want to put that picture box. So I'm going to click on the rectangular frame tool. Let's zoom in a little bit so we can see that better. All right. Click on the rectangular frame tool, and I'm going to put the cursor right on the edge of the guidelines. Remember, those are from the margins that we set in the document. And I just click and drag, and I'm hoping that's a square, pretty close, 30 millimeters by 30.5 millimeters. Bit tricky. Okay. Now, when I have my picture box selected, okay, I can see the X in the middle of it tells me it's a picture box. I click on that and the handles appear. I'm going to go up to the File menu, and I'm going to go down to Place, Command D. All right, you'll get used to this Command D key command because you'll be doing this hundreds of times. All right, now it's going to bring up my dialog box. And if you were there for my earlier lesson, I was talking about how to make a job folder for each InDesign project. So that's what I did here. It's called Joe Photo Letterhead. And inside that job folder, I have all our example files that I've made, but I also have my folder called Images. And inside that box, I want to put this blue square image of the sky and clouds. Okay, I've already saved that as a TIFF. And you'll notice that 92 megabytes, way bigger than what I need for this document, but that's okay. So I double click that, or just click it, select it, and put place. All right. Now all I've got is a bit of mush there because the image is way too big for that box. So I'm going to go up here, and I've got a number of different selections for how to place that, or how to fit that content. And my favorite one is that I want to fit content proportionally, which means I want to keep the original proportions of my image, but it's going to shrink it down for me. All right. So with my picture box selected, I hit the auto fit button. Bing! Keeps it in proportion. Notice how there's a little bit of space at the top and bottom because that picture, that image, isn't the exact same size or proportion as that box. So now I'm going to double click, and you can see my selection has turned that light brown color. Now I can click and I can drag that into position. Notice how it disappears behind the edge of the box. You can think of these, the picture box is like a crop tool. So if I drag my picture box out to the, or my image file out to the edge, you can see how all that stuff is invisible because it's outside the edge of the picture box that I drew. Okay, so I'm going to drag this down, leave it outside. I don't have to be too careful with this one because it is just generic clouds. And then I'm going to click and drag from the corner here and hold the Shift key down to keep the proportions consistent. Okay. So you can see that my image file extends beyond the edge of my picture box, and that the size picture box that I drew is the size that I want that image to display on the page. All right. So we've placed an image in that document. All right. Over here is the other box that I had drawn, and that's a slot for the green one, that landscape shot. So I go up to File, Place, and it's convenient because I have all these in the right spot and I'm not searching through 20 different files. It's going to appear, bing, okay. All right, if I double click on that, I can see the edges extend slightly beyond there. And if I want to change the crop on that, I'm holding down the Shift key so you can see that it stays in proportion. If I want to focus on some other section of the image, all right. And we'll talk a lot more about how to ensure file size to get good output. That's a whole other chapter. Okay, but the way I like that is just to have that suggestion of a landscape and a nice little fence post trickling down there. Okay, so we have taken a page where we have a layout. I've tried to line up those elements using grid design. We've used text boxes to enter the text information that we need. And then we've used the rectangular frame tool to draw picture boxes, and we've placed pictures inside those boxes. All right. So make sure you save that as you go along. All right. And next we're going to do another simple, straightforward text letterhead, but we're going to try to make it a little more dynamic than the first layout that we did. After that, we're going to move on to doing exhibition posters. All right. So this is Tim. Talk to you soon, and thanks for listening.